Maybe it's just nap time for everybody.
Hey guys, and welcome back to our channel. I am Donnie.
I'm Aubrey.
And we are two Americans currently living in Germany and sharing all of our experiences living and traveling throughout Europe.
So today, and for this whole weekend, we are in Venice. We're really excited because Venice has been at the top of our list of places to come once there are no more restrictions within traveling between the European countries. And so now those restrictions are off for Europe, and so we're traveling between countries now. And so we wanted to come to Venice before it got too crowded with all the other tourists, because this is a place that is normally jam-packed with people. And we're really excited to see what it's like during this time.
So we're gonna go do a free walking tour and then also just check out all of the major sites and see what the crowd sizes are and just kind of give you an idea of what Venice really is like right now, because it's something that we have seen in the news a lot lately, and how just empty it was during COVID when they were all shut down, and how the water got clear and the canals and everything. So you can see the canals behind us. We're gonna go check some things out and have a great day.
Usually this place is teeming with thousands of people gathered here. Now there's no one. A deathly hush has descended on the city with its world-famous canals.
In Venice, where this is normally carnival time, the party's over. Cancelled days early. The masks have changed, and people are getting out of town.
Venice, normally bustling with over 20 million tourists each year, is virtually empty. The water in its many canals is suddenly clear.
So our free walking tour, we've talked about these in so many of our videos, so we're not going to go over how these work in this one, but this free walking tour wasn't necessarily the main highlights of Venice, but it was a lot of kind of more of the where people live and then a few of the smaller neighborhoods and whatnot. So it's really cool to see that aspect. And our tour was about 25 to 30 people, with a vast majority of them all being German. And so it really is showing kind of the tourism right now. It is all just Europeans visiting different European countries. Also, our tour guide was mentioning that right now when we're walking around, this is a really, really good time to be visiting because it is opening back up post lockdown. So there are actually people here, shops opening again, and then also some liveliness, but it is nowhere near as full as it is during the normal peak season because there are no cruise ships, there's no tour groups coming through, and also like countries outside of the EU like the US and whatnot are also not allowed to come in, and so there is a huge population missing that normally would be here visiting. So there is life here, but we can also just see that a lot of the big squares and everything that we go to are actually fairly empty. So it hasn't been too uncomfortable walking around on the tour group and visiting it like this.
So during the lockdowns in Italy, we heard a lot of things on the news about just because there weren't many people, there really weren't any people here except for local Venetians, that the canals were very clear and that the water was just completely different, and that there was a lot of different species in the waters that aren't normally here. Someone asked our tour guide about that on our tour. She said that, I mean, yes, when there's boats that don't move through the canals very much, the algae that gets kicked up with boats does settle, and dirt and things do settle, so it was more clear. She did say that you could see a lot more fish, and you could see even an octopus at one point, but she didn't seem as like it was extremely different and unique like it made it seem like on the news. But she did say even in some of the canals, if boats don't go through them over a 24-hour period, it kind of gets like that. All the things settle in the canals. So it still looks kind of green and murky to us, but we have seen some fish. But I think everything's been kicked back up since tourism has started again.
one thing that I was not ready for whenever we came here was how the whole island is just maze after maze after maze, complete with dead ends and everything. But this is not uncommon like where we are right now, where we're finding streets that are completely empty. We're a little bit away from kind of the main areas, but we're still, the Grand Canals right on the other side of this building here. And there's still like nobody around us at all, which is kind of cool.
We just stepped into another pocket that's really close to some cool touristy things, but there's pretty much no one around us. We have this whole street to ourselves. A few things that we've noticed that have been different about tourism and traveling here since we've been here have of course been, you have to wear masks whenever you're going into public places. When we were on our free walking tour, we had to wear a mask the whole time while we were walking around, but we're kind of used to that in Germany as well. Another thing that we hadn't experienced before is that they are scanning temperatures before you go into every museum. Also, I was expecting there not to be any lines into the museums, but we went to the Doge's Palace yesterday and the line was wrapped around the building. So I can't even imagine how long that line is during real regular tourist times. But Donnie was really smart and thought ahead and bought our tickets online, and so we got to skip the line. So really glad we did that. We would definitely recommend doing that, especially in the high tourist season.
So here we are inside of the Piazza San Marco, and this is kind of like the big major square here in Venice. And when you look around, you see it's not super full. I mean, there's still quite a few tourists here. And something our tour guide did mention is that when you visit Venice, it is in some ways kind of Venice land instead of just Venice, because there's a lot more tourists here than actually people that live here. So you can pretty much guarantee that anybody here is a tourist. But really, you have quite a bit of elbow room here. Again, we haven't seen it whenever there's a ton of tourists here. Aubrey did whenever she was younger, but she doesn't really remember it, so we don't really have a whole lot to gauge off of. We can just use our imagination in some of the other places that we visited in Europe and know that this isn't that busy. We were kind of talking, it feels almost like not necessarily the big tourist sites in Europe, like Venice or Paris or London. It feels kind of like almost the secondary tourist sites, like a Trier, Germany, or maybe like a Schwerin or a Leipzig. Those are German examples, but it just doesn't feel like it's oversaturated with tourists, which is really nice. And we did do some of the museums here, and then we also did the Doge's Palace, which is really, really beautiful, and we'll throw some of those clips in. But then the actual St. Mark's for San Marco's Cathedral behind us, it was closed, and you can go into the museum, but the actual church itself was closed for renovations, so we couldn't go inside of there. But the rest of it, kind of neat just to walk around and check out, especially right now in the current tourism climate. So this is one of the major canals that leads into the Grand Canal, and right now there's not a whole lot of boat activity on it at all, but there have been quite a few coming through here, including like the big public transportation boats, which we're going to take tomorrow to some of the other islands just to see what they are like as well. But there's also, of course, tons of gondolas all throughout the city. But something that we've noticed is that we see them pretty consistently going throughout, but not a ton of them. And then there's all these different points along the city where there's the gondoliers sitting there and trying to entice people to come in and give them a ride. But they're not overly, I guess, like aggressive when they're trying to get you. They are pretty cordial with it. And then there doesn't seem like there's a lot going on right now. We booked some in advance and we recorded some videos of us on our gondola ride, but we didn't actually record us the day that we got here because it was our anniversary and that's why we're here celebrating. But we'll throw in some of our clips. It's really pretty. I have been kind of surprised at how expensive they are. About 80 euros for a boat for a ride during the day. So a little bit more expensive than I thought. You can haggle a little bit to try to get the prices down, but really, really worth it and something you got to do when you come here. And the gondola rides as well, a lot of people expect singing gondoliers, but we have learned that that's kind of a very special and unique thing if you come across a singing gondolier. And whenever you're going around and you're bartering for a gondola ride, you can kind of interview them a little bit and try to figure out if they will sing, also what their personality is, and what the tour will be like. Most of the time, it's just like a 30-minute little round trip gondola ride from wherever point you get your ride. And they're really fun, but like our gondolier just put headphones in and just listened to his own music, didn't talk to us at all. It's not like a tour guide either, which ended up being okay because we kind of got the moment just to be alone and just talk to each other. But if your personality is you want someone that talks more, tells you a little more history, or jokes with you, or sings, you have to get that on your own by researching and interviewing a little bit.
Good.
So we're here on a weekend, which of course is normally the most busy times in all these different places. But today our plan is to take the water bus boat thing to another island. We might hop around a few different islands and just explore them a little bit that are off of this main island of Venice. And what we've noticed as we've been seeing these water boat buses around, they are pretty packed. There's a lot of people still packed in them, but of course everyone's wearing their mask. Everyone seems to be abiding by the mask rule pretty well. We haven't seen anyone not wearing a mask when they're supposed to. There was one time in the museum, a lady had it pulled down below her nose and someone asked her to pull it up, but that's really it. So now we are gonna go see what the public transportation is like during this time and go explore these islands.
So we're winding our way through Venice, and one thing that our tour guide did tell us is that if you don't get lost in Venice, then you truly have not actually been in Venice, because it is a crazy, crazy maze. But of course, there are no streets. So the public transportation here in Venice are these big buses that are actually boats that we are taking to the other islands, and they're actually somewhat expensive. We looked yesterday and it was like 40 euros a person for a day pass. So it is kind of expensive, but it's the best way to get around if you're wanting to go from island to island from what we've seen online. So that's what we're going to give a shot. There's a couple of corrections I have to make. One, the boat was not nearly as packed as I expected, and two, it was 20 euros per person for a day pass, so 40 euros total for the both of us to have a day pass. And again, here on Murano, it's all about glass and glassware. So it's a cute little island, and just every single shop is selling some sort of glass, and that's what we're gonna check out right now. But the island itself doesn't look super busy. I mean, it's pretty wide for us to be able to walk around like this and not have people just all around us. Madonna and child statues are known throughout Europe, and a lot of times they'll have some like on street corners or in different alleyways. I've never seen a glass one, and here in Murano there's this really pretty glass one right here on the corner, which is really kind of unique and special to this area. It also shows, I think, how durable the glass is here in Murano, that it can withstand, you know, right in the corner right here by the sea and withstand the weather and hold up.
So it seems like most of the tourist shops are right by the water when you walk in. So we've walked past all that and now we're back just kind of not right next to the canals, and there's not as many tourists around here, and it seems like mostly locals, and it's pretty quiet right here in the middle of the city. So I think our takeaways from this weekend are that it definitely still is busy. There's a lot of tourists here, but from what our guide said, this is a lot less tourists than it normally is. So this seems like it's a really good time to come.
Yeah, definitely. So for our German viewers, for sure, and other European viewers that we have, if you can make it to Venice right now would be an incredible time to do it, because like a tour guide said, it is way less crowded than it normally is, but there's great life in the city again. There are still lines to the tourist attractions like we've mentioned, but just buy your tickets in advance and it really isn't too bad. We did do a little bit of touring around Europe whenever things started initially opening things up, and it almost felt kind of sad because there was nobody there. So this feels good again, because this feels like we're in a prime tourist location, but it's not like over the top touristy. So
yeah. And as far as like COVID restrictions, it really hasn't been anything over the top, just things, precautionary things, social distancing, wearing your mask, sanitizing your hands a lot. And that's pretty much the main thing. So it seems like a great time to come.
So thanks so much for watching this video, guys. If you have any questions or anything, go ahead and leave those in the comments below and we'll try to help you out and answer them as best as we can. If you like this video, please hit the like button and also subscribe because we would love to be able to show you more of our adventures here living in Europe.
Ciao. So, and okay, hold on, let me start this section. A few things. Another thing we've learned is that it's really cool and trendy now to wear your mask like up here on your arm whenever you're not using it at the moment. So, is it on? During the Italian, you could see straight to the bottom that there were all kinds of different aqua species.
Germany, or what's another one? We also did the Doges, and the Gondola. Oh, yeah, I just remembered.
So forgot to mention.
No, what the? Can you see the canal? Okay. Okay, there were too many people coming. I'm all embarrassed.